odd we have no borough councillors yet.
No.
Yes.
Councillor Mackay.
Oh.
Is it Mackay or Mackay, Councillor?
We have got, right.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, it's Mackay, thank you.
Mackay, thank you.
Just to let you know that we are streaming on YouTube now.
Great. It is past, so I think we'll make a start and hope that the missing councillors join us. So, welcome everyone. I'm Verity Moacan. I'm now the chair of the Standards Committee. This meeting's being held virtually via Zoom and in accordance with the Council's rules for virtual meetings. It's being streamed live on YouTube and also be available to view after the meeting's finished. Everyone has got their ID up on screen, which is very useful. And just a reminder that although this is a remote meeting, obviously all the normal rules apply. Could ask people if they want to speak, if they could either use the hand raising icon or just wave their hands. Hopefully I'll spot them. And I think oh yeah, if anyone has a disclosable pecuniary interest, then please, yeah, leave before the item, which I don't think will happen here. I think that's it. So, welcome to everyone. Firstly, as it was agreed last year that the three of us ISAs would rotate the chairship. So thank you, Chris, for your excellent chairing role for the last year. I hope I'll manage to do as well.
Good luck.
And also, Chris, you're intending to stand down, aren't you?
Yes, I've decided 20 years is long enough.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you'll be missed, and I think the two of us who are new are sort of learning some of the intricacies of the job, and you have great respect for the way you've carried it out.
Thank you very much.
We've got Councillor Dan Potty has joined us. Excellent. Was half joined us, which leads on nicely. Let's give Councillor Putty a minute to see if he manages to connect the audio. Yes, right. The first, so apologies for absence and substitutions. There aren't any, are there?
Yes, it was Martin Slatford sent his apologies.
Oh, right, yeah. And leads on to item 2. We have another councillor joining us.
Chairman, can I just raise a matter?
Yep.
I didn't get my link until now. I am not happy at all about it, you see.
Right.
Because the thing is that I've been looking for the link for the last practically hour. And
if you just got in contact, Councillor Putty, it could have been resent immediately.
I have sent it. I have sent message to Julia.
She's not in, and you should have got her out of office. She's not in.
And also that I just was really, I couldn't really make head or tail about what's going on. I had to contact Ken Rattigan regarding that. And just now I found your link that you sent. And I just don't know what is happening.
Well, meeting requests were all sent out, so you should have the dates. And if in future you haven't got a link earlier in the day, just get in touch and it will be resent to you then.
It wasn't, you see, because I thought that it was automatically sent to the members. who are on that particular committee?
Yes, it is automatically sent, and they were all sent, but we would maybe discuss this offline.
But I haven't got it on my Outlook, you see. I looked for it and couldn't find it. Anyway, that's beyond the point now. That meeting
You're
is
here
on.
now, which is the main thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So sorry, apology, Chairman, for being late.
That's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Right. So leading on to item 2, appointment of a vice chair for this committee. Is there anyone who would like to throw their hat in the ring?
Can I say something?
Yep.
It's a strange situation that only councillors can vote for on this committee. And so there are, well, I can see 2 here. Councillor Paddy has, well, obviously, in the distant future, always been vice chairman. But I don't know whether Councillor Mackay is prepared to remove him, and I don't know who seconds him, and what the situation is.
So suggesting that it should be one of the borough councillors who's the vice chair.
Borough council, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've certainly got no problem with that.
I don't mind being
Yeah.
vice chairman again if
Borough
nobody
council,
else.
what's your opinion on that?
So I'm struggling to hear you, Chris.
Evans, yes, thank you.
Chris, can you speak up or bring your mouth closer to the screen because it's difficult to hear you?
Sorry?
You need to speak up. Your sound isn't
Sorry,
right.
okay, fine.
So are you nominating Councillor Putty, are you?
No, I can't nominate anybody. I can't vote for anybody. I'm
Right.
in a situation the council's not aware of. Councillor Mackay may not be aware of, but only councillors can vote on this committee.
Right.
Therefore, you've got 2 people.
So-
One can propose. Do you want a seconder for one of those? Or are you going those on? I don't know. It's a bit confusing about it, having only 2 in a decision-making process.
I think we've got 3 councillors. I see Councillor Howard is here as well. I'd be happy to nominate Councillor Putty.
Right. And do we have a seconder?
I don't know, Councillor Putty can second himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
So if there are no other nominations, Verity.
yep. So in that case, Councillor Putty is appointed vice chair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Great.
so much for having trust in me.
Right. So leading on, any declarations of interest? No. And any urgent matters that aren't on the agenda? I'll take that as a no.
Nope.
So leading on to the minutes of the last meeting, any matters of accuracy? Oh,
No.
Joe?
Nope.
Joe, you're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
No, it's accurate. The minute is accurate.
Yeah. Joe was trying to say something, but you're on mute.
Buttons at the top right hand side of your screen.
So you need to
Actually, done it.
All right, it didn't work when I was doing it, only when I got the message to allow me to do it. For some reason, it didn't let me. On the minutes of the last meeting,
Yep.
On the item, which is the resolved item on page 6, it refers the last bullet point at the top of the item at the top. It says the next meeting of the committee in June 2021. We're in July, so I think that should
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's for accuracy.
Yeah. Excellent. I hadn't spotted that. And any matters arising from anyone?
Can't be.
I mean, I've already sort of asked if we can have an update on how the recruitment of the independent person and independent standard assessors is going. So we're going to cover that later.
Okay.
Something that's going to be even more urgent with Chris leaving us. Right. So, leading on to the next item, which is the Model Code of Conduct.
Thank you, Chair. So the committee received a report on this at the last meeting, the March meeting, and you considered the model code as published by the LGA in December 2020. So this is a bit of an update report. The idea is to invite the committee's view on adopting the code. Things have moved on. Paragraph 3.2 of the report refers to the supplementary guidance not having been received, but in fact it's been published since this report was written. It was received last week on the 8th of July. So following this meeting, we will be sending out the supplementary guidance to all members of the committee.
Excellent.
So in that respect, the first recommendation will need to be revised. So it refers not only to the code of conduct, but also to the supplementary guidance. So depending on the comments that we receive from you tonight, there will be a chance for you to respond by email if you want to add anything once you've read the supplementary guidance. It is actually, I've read it myself, it's quite long, but it's a really good document with lots of worked examples of things like, when a councillor's, acting as a member, guidance on what disrepute means. So I think it makes it a lot more live to councillors. It will enable them to understand their obligations a lot better. Part 4 of the report that you will have read basically sets out the new points in this code as compared to what we have at the moment. And I'm happy to take any questions on those parts. So once we've got comments back from the committee and any supplementary comments you want to make after you've read the supplementary guidance, then both those sets of comments will go to the newly established constitutional working group, which is being revived because we're doing a bit of a review of the Constitution again. So that will be set up in July of this year. So they will then consider what you say about the code before recommending anything onto council that makes changes to the Constitution. Also, whilst they're doing their constitutional work, if they, of their own initiative, recommend any changes to the code, it will of course come back to this committee for you to endorse anything that they suggest. So that's the main body of the report. The item 3 actually relates to a little glitch in the code of conduct as is. So disclosable pecuniary interests. There's a mistake in the code of conduct in that it currently allows members to speak at committees if members of the public have the right to speak at committees where they have a disclosable pecuniary interest, and it should not. So if a member has a disclosable pecuniary interest, the law provides that they must declare that interest and then they must leave the room and take no further part in the decision in relation to that item. So the recommendation is to change that, and that will go on to full council.
Great. Does anyone have any comments or? questions they want to raise or discuss?
What do members think of the new code
Yeah.
of conduct? Is it easier to read, or because it's all in the I person, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's good to have some clarification of some of the questions that might have been arising. Certainly, if this latest guidance, supplementary guidance, obviously it might help us with some of the issues that we know we've got with when as a counsellor, not a counsellor, when a social media, issues. So it might give us some better understanding. It's unfortunate it doesn't come for tonight, because otherwise we could.
No, I did think about sending it to everybody this morning, but I didn't think you'd have a chance to read it, and it would put you in a difficult spot. But
how long is it? How many pages?
Oh, it took me a good hour to read it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
quite a long read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did send it to me earlier. I'm afraid I literally had time to just notice it, but yeah.
There is some really good guidance on, things like when a counsellor is acting as a counsellor, particularly when they're using things like Twitter accounts, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they should be aware of. But there's also really good stuff in there about things like bullying, intimidation, helping members to identify more that, how their action could be construed as that. I also like the bit on, when a counsellor brings their office into disrepute, or the council into disrepute, and respect. There's a lot of really good guidance on respect, and by and large, it seems to follow the sort of decisions we've been making, as part of our complaints process.
Which is very reassuring.
Yeah. I just wondered whether members like the style of it, because it's all, I will do this and I will do that, which is a real change from the past.
Yes. Yeah.
The Friar.
Can I just ask, are the parish councils going to wait until after the constitution has been agreed and everything else, or in other words, when will this become the code of conduct for parish councils, and what will be the implementation date?
You'll see the recommendation to Councillor Fryer is that we're going to do some engagement with the Basingstoke District Association of Parish Councils. So we're going to come out and see them. We'll do a bit of a presentation on the code and the supplementary guidance. And obviously we'd be very interested to get parish council comments as well, because it affects all you just in the same way that it will affect the council. It requires a change, I think, to primary legislation. And it was actually recommended by the Committee of Standards on Public Life that it should be mandatory that parish councils adopt the code that their borough council adopts. So although that change hasn't been made, we would kind of hope that once we've adopted the code, that the parish councils would follow suit. And it would be so much easier, because at the moment we've got a situation when we consider complaints, the first thing you have to do is find the code of the parish council. Some of them have the NALC code, some of them have our code, some of them have a variation on our code of conduct. So there are lots of different ones out there at the moment. So to have one uniform code across all the councils would be really useful.
It has been tried by HALC, but they had to abandon the current code of conduct because with Basingstoke, with about 45 or so parishes, Hampshire Association has got 200 plus. So it's much more difficult to get a standardized code of conduct, but I certainly would agree that it would be better to have a mandatory rather than option in or option out.
I think so far, Fiona contacted the other councils in Hampshire at district and borough level, and I think only 2 of them had actually so far adopted the model code. So it's had a bit of a lukewarm reception. in the same way that I think both Fiona and I felt a bit lukewarm about it, but actually having read the supplementary guidance, I can see it's just so much better now because the information is there really to give it some teeth, and I can see how members will be able to understand the situations they find themselves in better. It's far more of a guidance sort of thing to help members with their responsibilities. So hopefully if I feel like that, then I would expect other councils to feel like that, and perhaps more councils will actually adopt the new code.
I certainly think that this code of practice, which is part of these lots of papers, is extremely beneficial to the parish councils, because the explanations, and I also think the single person statement that I will do this, I will do that, is preferable to saying that the councillors will do it. It becomes more personal to the individual councillors.
Yeah. When you sign your declaration of office, to abide by the code of conduct, it's more real to the person, I think.
Yes. But the supplementary question was, when would we, as borough councillors, etc., adopt this particular code, which is presented in the papers, from what sort of date?
I'm not quite sure yet. I would think probably about October, maybe December, depending on which council meeting it goes to. I think the complication is having the constitutional working party sort of in between, because normally we would just recommend from this committee straight to council, but as they're looking at the whole constitution, it will have to go through that extra stage. So the months tick by very quickly when you start to do this sort of thing. And we need to go out and brief the parish councils so that, we want meaningful feedback from people. So we want members to actually read it and read the supporting guidance. And if members don't feel able to contribute tonight, perhaps they haven't read it, or, they need the supporting guidance, then, we'd like email comments in so that, when we report it up to council, it's clear, what this committee thought of the document. And then the Constitution Working Group can take that into account as well.
Thank you.
I mean, certainly it comes across to me as very, very clear.
Councillor Mackay wants to speak.
Yes, thanks. Just looking at the minutes of the last meeting, it also said that we're waiting on the outcome of the government's consideration of the Committee for Public Life. Where does that come into the frame alongside what's already been discussed?
Yeah, exactly where it was last time. It really hasn't moved on. If you look at the report, there's reference in there to an update that was obtained, but I think the mixture of the COVID crisis, Brexit and everything else, it just hasn't been given parliamentary time, and I would be surprised to see that it's given time in the foreseeable future. When you think that the government couldn't even give time to take through new legislation so that meetings could take place virtually, that is so much more important, and that was so much more urgent, yet they couldn't do that. I don't think there's a great deal of chance of them looking at that until things settle down again and we're out of the woods, so to speak.
Does that mean we'll not be waiting for the outcome? I mean, I'm hoping you'll say we won't be waiting.
Yeah. But I think with the supplementary guidance, I think when you read it, I think you will feel that it's so beneficial that it probably is worth going with it, because it gives members so much more guidance than they've got at the moment, especially new members, who won't have had to make these sort of decisions before. Things are definitely a lot clearer. So I would hope that, our choice would be to go and adopt it, and then hope that the government one day catches up with the legislation, because there are parts of the code that, do require legislation to give them statutory effect.
Right.
Mainly sanctions, it's the sanctions that's missing at the moment, the fact that the code is pretty toothless other than naming and shaming. There's no power to suspend or anything, which, does require legislative change, and also involve the new role of the Ombudsman to sort of, give members a right to appeal if they are suspended. All of that needs legislation.
Camilla, you waved a hand.
Thank you. I just wanted to say my reading of it is I feel it's very helpful in terms of the style. I look forward to seeing the supplementary guidance, but the thing that I welcome most is the clarity around electronic and social media.
Yes.
I think that will really help. So those are the points that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I think that's something that has moved on so quickly. Yeah. And I mean, certainly one of my other roles with Thames Valley Police, it is catching out a lot of police officers and police staff. So yeah, I think more clarity there.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Chris?
Can I ask, we're talking about mandatory, Liz is saying welcoming mandatory element, but nothing can be mandatory until Westminster has spoken with it. We can't just say, from now on, you will be doing it.
I'm having trouble catching what you're saying again. Can you just speak up and come forward?
Les has been saying about how welcome he thinks Parish Council will welcome the mandatory element, but there cannot be any mandatory until Westminster passes legislation, can there?
Well, there are some bits that do require legislation, so sanctions.
I appreciate it, but all it, I find it difficult that some Parish Council will be a little unhappy if for some reason a borough council says from now on you will do that.
But I don't think legislation is needed to make it mandatory in that sense. It's just the way it's expressed, you will, it's to make it clear. But there are things that do require legislation, sanctions, the abolition of the criminal regime for disclosable pecuniary interests. That is a big change that requires legislation. But I think by and large, councils will think there is enough with the supplementary guidance for it to be seen as a benefit to adopt it now rather than carrying on with the old code. And then eventually, it will change again when the government makes legislation. Also, the LGA has promised to review the code regularly. So as new legislation comes in or new recommendations from the Committee of Standards of Public Life, for instance, they will update it properly every year. And then we will change our code accordingly. But, in the ideal world, you would want it all to come in at one time with the government having made the legislation. But we're not in an ideal world at the moment. So,
yeah.
Is that it? Can I move the recommendations?
Do we need to have a discussion about the proposed amendment?
Well, I'm quite happy to actually just amend the officer's recommendation. So in recommendation 1, if it reads the Local Government Association Model Code of Conduct and supplementary guidance be referred to the Constitutional Working Group for consideration together with the views of the Standards Committee and any supplementary emails received in respect of the supplementary guidance.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so that's recommendation 1 and 2, further engagement with Basingstoke and Dean Association of Parish and Town Councils.
Yes, we will do that. So that stands. We just need to organise a date. I think Fiona has received a request to go and make a presentation to them.
And then 3, proposed amendment to the current Councillors' Code of Conduct in Appendix 3.
That will be there.
Yep. That seems, needed and giving clarity. Yep. Great.
Chairman, is that all we agreed?
Yep. Yep. And then people will, the supplementary guidance will be circulated, so then anyone can feed back comments.
Yes, I'll put a time limit on it if you don't mind. Otherwise we'll never know when.
Week.
A couple of weeks, I think.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Great.
Take you a week to read it.
Right. Yeah. So Bear with me a second. I'm shuffling some papers here. So leading on the complaints report.
Yes, Chair. So this is the standard report you receive every committee. And what we try to do is only leave on there the ones that are sort of current or ones that have been determined and where you haven't had information before. So, you know, things that have happened subsequent to the last committee. I think probably the interesting thing to note is that since last committee, all the complaints that we've had have actually related to parish councils or town councils, rather than our own councillors. And it's funny, it comes in fits and starts. Sometimes you have parish and town councils, and sometimes it's our own councillors. But there do seem to be difficulties in well, one particular parish council at the moment is generating a lot of complaints against the same councillor, actually. So yeah, they will have to be looked at and decided whether or not they should be dismissed. So happy to take any questions on any of them. The one that is a bit strange is one, let me see, 1, 2, 3, fourth one down. This is a councillor complaint against 2 other councillors. It was about a data breach. It's being very slow to be determined because the ICO wrote and said it was a data breach, but it turned out that before they wrote the letter, they hadn't actually spoken to the councillors who were alleged to have committed the data breach. So we've had to go back to them and ask them, you know, what lawful basis they had for handing over the data. And they've now responded to us. So now we need to go back to the ICO and say, this is the councillor's response. Do you think, you know, is it a data breach or not, before we can determine the complaint, which is really slowing that one down. I don't know if some members on the committee might remember a couple of years ago when we had 3 councillor complaints, and it was a serious one. And I think we waited for the ICO determination for over a year on that one. So they're not always very speedy.
Yeah. Are there any particular trends in complaints, or?
I think something I've noticed recently is people trying to use the code of conduct really to complain about how the decisions that their parish council has made. So, you know, it could be something like, you know, they've let a contract and they don't like it, or something like that. And, you know, we keep having to say to them, you know, we're not here as a parent council to supervise the activities of parish councils. We're here rather to look at the code of conduct in relation to their councillors and whether or not they've abided by that. But we've had a number of those recently.
Yes. Yeah, Camilla?
The first complaint that's listed, 048555, I just wondered about the learning that's highlighted there, which says councillors to be encouraged to discuss any potential complaints with the monitoring officer before submitting code of conduct complaints against fellow councillors. How is that done? Because isn't that a sort of expected protocol?
I don't think it's written down anywhere, but you would kind of hope that, you know, it's not a comfortable place, is it? Members making complaints against other members. You would kind of hope that they could deal with it in their political groups through their group leaders, discussing things with each other. But, you know, we have had over the years quite a few where they actually complain against other councillors, and, you know, often it's politically motivated, to be honest, which does make it difficult. But I think that's there just to try to encourage members, you know, perhaps if they have the conversation, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, a decision gets made, the letter gets published, and, you know, if they're totally exonerated, but it you know, it's still in the public domain that they made a complaint against a fellow councillor. When there are other ways of dealing with these things.
Thank you.
I mean, Leslie?
Could we just perhaps in complaint number have whether that's a borough councillor complaint or a parish council complaint?
Yeah, no,
That would be useful. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do them in different colours for you next time. So we have carrot and blue and borough and black.
You'd have to have a pink page, I would think, for everything.
But we do take names out for that reason. But yeah, it would be easy to vote them in different
So
colours.
these are all parish complaints, the current list.
No, not all of them. The fourth box down, that's a councillor one, the 049098, that's borough one. All the others are parish ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The first one as well, that wasn't a that was a borough one as well.
Right. So, yeah, any more comments on that item? In which case, we move on to review of the work programme for the year ahead for this committee.
Chairman, before we go to this one, can I just pay my tributes to Chris Evans?
Yes.
For serving this council for such a long period of time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, is it 35 years, Chris?
43.
43 years.
78, yes.
And it needs to be recognized. He has been a really stalwart person for our borough. He has done practically everything that needed to be done. He has worked really hard. And I have worked with him in many, many other committees and so on, and charities, etc. So I know how much Chris has worked, and I wanted to really make it point that he should be really honored by the council. I would really talk to my leader and see whether something can be done about it. But I really feel sad that he's leaving us. He has contributed so much to us, this committee, as well as when he was a borough councillor. He has been really fantastic for the borough.
Dan, thank you very much. I once heard somebody saying that they were a bad loser and a bad winner, but I'm like that as well. I don't like losing, but I find it embarrassing when people say something nice about me. I became borough councillor in 78, 14 years, including mayor, then twinning through, then 2001 this committee. I chaired it for the first 10 years and a couple of years back. I find it very satisfying, sometimes very frustrating. I must admit, listening to what you're saying, I was tempted to say, welcome to the Standards Committee, because I hear lots of complaints from the parish council, etc. And you'll find you'll get the same thing again and again and again. But it makes it interesting. I've always believed in the highest standards in public life, and that's why I've enjoyed doing it. I will miss doing it, but I thought now it's time. I've given up several charities recently, and I won't have much to do as far as that's concerned. But I have enjoyed it tremendously, and I'm very grateful for the things you said about me, Dan.
Thank you.
You and I have known each other for many, many years.
Oh, yes.
We've been met, I think, in the fields of Germany and France under twinning.
Yeah.
That sort of area. But as I say, I have enjoyed myself. I wish you all well. Dan, this can be interesting, frustrating. What's even more frustrating is now that in the good old days, we always had the good old days, independent people actually had a voting on the committee. We felt we'd have a real input. But at the moment, we only have, 4 councillors, and we can say what we think, but we don't have any influence on the voting at all, which I find is very frustrating. You may find it frustrating, but that's the way the cookie comes at the moment. But I think the important thing is, if you look at the committee and councillors and yourself, how you would expect you to behave, I think that's the way you go along. We're not asking unreasonable behaviour, but you know, occasionally it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But we haven't had any really serious political upheavals for a number of years. We went through a very difficult period about 10 years ago, I suppose, when politics really stayed in the sand quite strongly. But fortunately, I think as a borough council, we're very lucky. We don't have very many complaints with the borough council. I like to think maybe it's because we're here to watch them, but probably that's a little bit optimistic to say that. Yeah, thanks for saying it, Dan.
Yeah, a big thank you, Chris, and
Yeah.
to your family as well. All the very best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Dan. Yeah. Right. So if we move on, the work programme for the year ahead. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions, things that think should be in?
Verity, can I just say on the update of the IPs and ISAs, the adverts are actually out. So I think the closing date, I've got a feeling it was the 25th of July. So progress is being made.
Right, so hopefully we'll get some good candidates. Because remind me how many we're trying to recruit.
It's 2 ISAs and 1 independent person.
Right. Yeah. Great. Right. So
Chairman,
that's where it's been advertised.
Oh, just one comment about that. We have got a lot of new councillors, and the code of conduct, especially, we do need to have training for them, you see. And I don't know whether this can be really arranged.
We've done it, Dan. They've already had. We've done a code of conduct training session.
Great.
So, councillors should have attended. I certainly recognise some faces from the session that I did. So we might find another one to pick up any stragglers, but I think most of the new councillors have been through code of conduct training.
Right.
Good.
Good. Joe.
Yeah, I just wondered where the new positions have been advertised.
I'm going to flunk that one because I didn't do it. I know they will be on the council website. I would imagine they've probably been put in one of the local papers, which is what we would normally do.
Yeah.
Probably the Gazette.
Right.
And have you organised your interview panel?
I don't know because Fiona's handling it. So I would imagine that she will be in contact if she hasn't set them up already.
Right. Councillor McKay?
No, just to add to the last point, I've been approached by my group leader as to whether I'd be involved in the interview process. So obviously something is happening in terms of
Good. Right. Yeah, because certainly it'd be good to have a couple more of us. I think you'd agree, Camilla?
Definitely.
Yeah. Right. So on the work programme, does anyone have any, is there anything that people have looked at that and thought should be on our work programme for the year ahead?
No.
Anything else we should be looking at or?
Okay.
I mean,
are we happy to continue having these on Zoom? Or will we start going back into the office, do you think?
I think it depends when we have office meeting rooms, to be honest. At the moment, we're refurbishing offices, selling a block. So there aren't the rooms to have them back in the office, even if we wanted to. By and large, the decision's been made that where committees require decisions to be made, then they need to be in the office, because you need to be in the place. So committees like this one, whilst we talk about things, we tend to make recommendations onto other bodies such as council. So at the moment we can continue virtually, and I suppose we will for the time being.
Okay. Right. I mean, one thing I thought we should perhaps be looking at is looking at what the social media guidance is for councillors and whether we should have input into that.
Didn't Fiona do a paper earlier on social media guidance? I'm sure she did. Did it not come to an earlier standards committee?
Yes.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume there was some consultation with all councillors on that. It probably just needs a follow-up report. So perhaps if we add it to just put it on November's for the time being, I'll check with Fiona what happened to that.
Yeah. And yeah. Right. So we don't have any confidential items? No.
No.
No. Right. Does anyone have any other business?
No, we don't. We don't have any business. I think we come to the end of the meeting, Chairman.
Yeah. So all I would say is obviously we're all going to be poring over the guidance notes for the new code of conduct and studying it in detail and getting comments, ideas, questions, suggestions back to Anne over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get that sent out to you tomorrow. So
excellent, be great. Yeah. But I mean, as I said earlier, I find it reassuring that it seems to be in line with the decisions that we're making. It would be quite worrying if it was suggesting things very different to the decisions we've made.
Yeah.
Right. On that note, if there are no other questions, nothing else for people to raise, declare this meeting finished and closed.
Thank you.